Welcome to Speed Scene Live TV, the only show dedicated to the sportsman racer. Brought to you by Curry Rear Ends, Hedman Hustler Headers, M&H Tires, and TheFolk.com. With your hosts, Diana-Mite, Bruce Barker, Scott Lucky Hudson, Alex Roggio, Bob Beck, Bryant Layton, with Donnie Couch and Dar Hawthorne.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob Beck. Welcome to Speed Scene Live on another Tuesday night under the lights here on top of the big studio we have here in Southern California. With us tonight, the always lovely Bruce Barker.
I was so thinking, well, you know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I know what
the
you were
camera
thinking.
was heading right over to Diana.
Yeah, there you go. I caught ya. All right, but we do have really the adorable Diana-Mite.
I'll pay you back on that one, Bob.
Okay. And then Scott Lucky Hudson.
And also ran.
Yeah, he runs hard. He's recuperating from a week at the great NHRA finals.
That's right. I'm completely covered in barbecue grease.
Yes, you are. Well, the car shines really nice in the back, anyway. We'll get into that later on.
That's right, a little inside activity there.
You got it. Tonight we've got Chris Vandergriff with us. He's driven Top Fuel dragsters and is involved with Hedman Hustler Headers Company, as well as Transdap, Hamburger Oil Pants, and a great line of Hedman Street Headers.
Hey, Bob, this video that we're watching right now is Chris's brother, Bob Vandergriff. He's top 10 NHRA Top Fuel driver, currently racing in the NHRA, and my favorite part about him is he's so well known for, after winning a race, actually running down the entire track.
Does he actually?
He must be physically fit, huh?
He must be. Now, next week, Alex, the car girl, Roggio, will be live in studio. She's been at SEMA and the NHRA World Finals, has some great video and photos to show you next week. And, hey, I'd like to thank ESPN for actually filming my car, my Nova.
Yeah.
They showed it during their broadcast of the NHRA World Finals.
Oh, nice.
And I really appreciate that.
They were getting a good shot of the hamburger grease.
Well, Lucky, why wouldn't they show? I mean, it was the best-looking Nova there, right?
There you go. That's why we have you around here, Diana.
Absolutely. It's that fluff. I'm fluffing you. Okay. Hey, Hot Rod Bob, you're going to be talking all about transporters today, right?
Right. You got to get it to the track somehow.
Absolutely. And coming up in a couple of weeks, we've got the Lost Pastime segment to show you. Pastime had to decide whether or not to air this one episode, and we're going to show you the video and tell you why right here on Speed Scene Live. I can't wait. And Speed Scene Live, that's going to be in November. The lawyers told us not to talk about it, but gosh, it's just so hard to keep a secret. Right, Lucky?
Yeah, especially where the law's involved.
Yeah. But now we've been notified that we can show it, and we can talk all about it, and you know I will.
Bob, you mentioned getting into the track somehow, and Alex Roggio is one of those who I can think of where the transporter is not involved because she drives the car to the track.
She tows the trailer with the race car.
Yeah.
I'd say, the most unusual thing I've ever heard.
Crazy.
And she does it in 10 seconds flat.
Yeah, there you go. That's a quick commute. Donnie Couch has got some great interviews from Pomona World Finals coming up. That'll be later, of course, in subsequent editions of Speed Scene Live. Plus, the boat drags and more. Man, it's going to be cool to talk hydroplanes with Donnie Couch, because I remember seeing some video, this was a while ago now, that he was doing some interviewing over the summer. And anyway, we'll catch up on that. He'll put the Eddie Knox Top Fuel Hydro in the winner's circle, and of course it has Speed Scene Live stickers on it. Would there be any doubt?
No.
I was just checking. You don't have a Speed Scene Live sticker, by the way? You want one of those things? Drop us an email. We've got them for you. They're the full color edition that are available right now as 2013 Waynes.
And they're good for at least 100th.
That's right, depending on whether you're on water or asphalt. Dynamite, why don't you introduce our special guest tonight?
Well, before I do that, I want to show everybody my special T-shirt.
Hey.
Okay, what does this say? It says Arm Drop Nationals. Woo!
Nation.
Oh, nation.
Nation.
Hey, try reading upside down. Okay, all right. I'm blonde. What can I say?
Let me try my Braille reading.
Hey. I'll let Chris try that. Hey, I want to introduce our special guest tonight, Chris Vandergrift. Welcome to Speed Scene Live.
Thank you, gang. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all tonight.
Chris, it's great to have you on the show. I understand that you were out at the SEMA show just a couple days ago, and you jumped in a rental car and drove out here to hang out at the Pomona race.
Yeah, lucky. We finished up the show on Friday, and once our management staff realized the show was kind of over, I think they could tell the twinkle in my eye wanted to come home to Southern California. Hadn't really breathed any nitro for a while, so we bypassed some jet fumes and jet fuel and decided to rent a car and make it down to Southern California. Every time I come home, I see old friends like Donnie Couch and my good friend Sherry from Clay Smith Cam, so it was really nice to visit with all the people, and you can't never come home without a little In-N-Out burger and some Jack in the Box.
Nice.
Always got to make sure I get my stops in before I go.
Now, Chris, tell us about the show. How was it this year?
Well, I'd have to say, Lucky, I've been going to SEMA for over 20 years now, and, the industry has been a little stale. The economy, some people feel that is in dire straits, but I would have to say after this SEMA show, everybody in the industry is very, very positive. They're calling for records for the first time in 47 years of attendance and vendors and just people being at the show.
Dang.
So for all of us aftermarket companies, I mean, you couldn't ask for any better. And as we were just kind of shooting around earlier in the show, normally when I come home from a trade show, I sit down and basically go through all my business cards and figure out who were keepers and who were tire kickers. And I'd have to say this year I was very, very impressed because I kept every single card that was given to me at the SEMA show. So that bodes well for our whole industry and every one of the companies in it.
That's
Well,
good.
we've got some video from, Bruce right now is showing some great SEMA video. Way to go, Bruce.
Well, thanks. Yes, file footage, by the way.
File
This is
footage.
what you can see at SEMA. It's an example.
Right. But coming up, we've got some great footage that was shot by our friends at thefote.com, and we're going to start showing that next week, and you can see some of the interviews and some of the products, and you can see some of the people at the show. Now, we mentioned that Brett Wagner was on the show, or was in the Curry booth at SEMA, and you had one of the Speed Scene Live hosts in the Hedman booth, right, Chris?
Yes, we did. We had Alex. It was my first encounter with her. I was very impressed by her presentation and just her overall well-being. I think Alex has a great future ahead of her, and we've been actually talking about maybe getting her involved more with Hedman every day, and I'm looking forward to doing some more business with Alex, yes.
Good.
Nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about your racing. Before we move on from the SEMA, you'll be going out to the PRI show in the near future too.
Yes, we are. After many, many years in Orlando, the whole industry is going to be returning to Indy. It'll be our first year back. We're really looking forward to getting back to Indiana. I just feel there's more of a racer network that will actually come to the show. We all love going to Orlando, but that just seemed to be more of a vacation spot per se. I think the draw for the industry will be getting more of the race enthusiasts back into our trade show in Indy, and we're all really looking forward to it in the industry. I think it's going to be good for everybody as a whole.
Well, isn't Indy really the hub of racing now?
I think it always has been. I think the reason why most people didn't want to go to Indy is being a West Coast boy like myself. I think everybody was just a little afraid of the cold.
What?
The
cold weather?
Lucky, I don't know if you do so well in the cold either. But,
No.
They have invented some new indoor things where you can leave your hotel room, guys, and make it all the way to the trade show without ever being in the elements. So I think if Lucky comes, we're going to have to park him at one of those hotels, I have a feeling.
I look at snow the same way other people look at rattlesnakes. I know it's out there waiting for me.
But they haven't designed wrinkle-wall snow tires yet, so you can't do any winter drag racing.
You can't.
You know
But-
what? When I lived in Oregon, we would have those studded tires that we would put on our cars in the wintertime so that we wouldn't have to put chains on them.
Sure.
And you know what? If you have front-wheel drive, you put them on the front wheels. If you have rear-wheel drive, you put them on the rear wheels. But you just drive in the snow, no problem. Come on. And then you go in parking lots, you take them off, you go in parking lots, and you do donuts. That's the
There
fun
you
part
go.
of snow.
Oh. Well, Chris, let's talk a little bit about your racing. I mean, obviously you're here, you're looking good, and look at the Hedman shirt, you're all styling. Nice. Now, you've got a lot of history with drag racing. In fact, I think Bruce has a clip of you making a quick pass in a dragster here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not just a spokesmodel,
How
are
long
you?
ago was this, Chris?
This was a couple years back after actually my Top Fuel career. When I did have my blowover at Indy, it was a pretty violent crash, and I'm very lucky to be standing here. Mostly when you see accidents that a driver loses their life, some of the softest impacts are the ones that do that. Mine was very violent. I'm very proud to still be here, and after the wreck, we wanted to build another dragster just to make sure Chris wanted to drive something. So we built a Super Comp dragster, and I spent a couple years racing that just to make sure I still had the bug. I'm a racer at heart, always have been, and it just reassured me that I wasn't afraid to go racing again. So that was the whole purpose for that. Yeah.
That's the blowover. For those of you out there that don't know what a blowover is, let's see it again. And does it come in slow-mo here, Shirley?
Wow. I got to admit.
Yeah, this is a heart
That's
stopper.
him in there.
That's a legendary blowover. I think of there's been several, but I think yours is the most spectacular.
Well, they say it is. I think back in the early days of Indy, there were blowovers, but it was from the front engine dragster days. I think I am the first modern day top fuel dragster to blow
A
over.
little bit slower.
I can't say that I'm.
Garlitz and Eddie Hill had a blowover, but not as violent as that.
Pop.
I mean, I think Garlitz even went back through the finish line on wheels.
True.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't say that that's something I want to be remembered for, but we had a few little mistakes in the pit area over the weekend. We were a new team. Anytime you're running a single car top fuel team, it's tough to keep up and hire the right crew members. So when you're out there racing a top fuel dragster on your MasterCard and Visa, it gets a little tough sometimes. But we actually had made a mistake in the pit before that. We seized up an oil pump shaft on the jack stands, and had we had a camera in the pit area, I think that would have been prevented. But from what we can gather, the car went to the starting line missing 3 gallons of fuel. And in a top fuel dragster, that's where all the ballast is in the nose of a top fuel dragster. So we were missing about 25 pounds in the nose of the car when it up there.
That's what keeps the nose down.
Yeah, and I believe another, driver that was a little more experienced than myself, maybe somebody like my brother or somebody out there today would have caught it. But at that time, I was a little inexperienced. So when the front end came up, I thought I caught it in time. The wind got it, and up and over I went. So it was not a good weekend. But thank the Lord, I'm still here.
Did you have your eyes open? Did you see everything as you were spinning around?
Well, to be honest with you, I had a concussion from the accident. I do remember doing the burnout. I do remember staging the car, putting it on the high side, as we call it, when you turn the second fuel pump on. But after that, it's really, really, really vague. The actual blowover wasn't so bad. It's actually when it got into the wall and flipped up on the wall and started barrel rolling.
So you're saying
that's when it got the worst for me.
It wasn't going in the air that was bad. It was the sudden stop at the end.
Sudden stop, and then if you watch the footage, you'll see the roll cage up on the wall barrel rolling.
Yeah, I saw that.
What I can see, though, is at least the structure around the driver did what it was supposed to do.
It
Yes,
saved you.
the SFI and NHRA Safety Safari, the way they build these cars is first and foremost. I believe the reason why I'm still here today is because the NHRA mandates and the SFI. It definitely saved my life, yes.
Man, well, it's painful to watch that, and it looks so scary, but you're sitting right here as proof that, hey, you survived that extreme crash, and that's great. Bruce, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more to Chris about Hedman headers, Transdap, hamburger oil pans, and we've got the latest update on the Fontana track coming up soon. Plus, we're going to get to share Hot Rod Bob Beck's gas.
Yes.
Speed Scene Live, right here with this handsome gentleman that I can't help but staring at.
Thanks a lot, John.
I bail out of that?
That's okay. You did good. You did good. Thank you very much.
For over half a century, Curry rear-end components have been twisting out the torque and taking the punishment. And the new Curry lineup is stronger than ever. Some of the world's most capable, hardest-working vehicles depend on Curry gears, which is why you can too. Street cars, hot rods and resto rods, drag cars, rock-crawling four-wheel drive vehicles, whatever you're piloting, Curry expertise and rock-solid design means the parts will do their job, so you can do yours. Check out Curry's custom rear ends, featuring a full line of upgrades, components, and installation options. The Curry Crate rear ends lineup offers ultra-strong construction on third members and carrier assemblies. And other underside parts, like correct link steering systems, keep your four-wheeler pointed where you want it. Add in a wide variety of solid, purpose-built suspension and brake components, and you've got one tough, ready-to-go machine. Grab a hold of a Curry rear end. Talk to the experts at 714-367-2679 or view the complete line online at curryenterprises.com.
60 years. That's a long time for a company to do any one thing. Doing it right while sticking to your founding values. Now that takes hard work and dedication. For 60 years, Hedman's all-American workforce has been devoted to manufacturing the very best headers any team of craftsmen can build. That's 60 years of cutting, 60 years of bending, 60 years of welding, more than 2 million in all, and every set made right here at home. At Hedman Headers, We build all American horsepower, then back it up for life. Hedman Headers, made in the USA.
Welcome back to more of Speed Scene Live, the #1 online drag racing TV show. Brought to you by Curry Rear Ends, M&H Tires, Hedman Hustler Headers, and TheFote.com.
Oh, yeah, and it's another Tuesday night. Welcome back to Speed Scene Live. This is Diana-Mite. We've got Scott Lucky Hudson, Chris Vandergrift down there. We got Bob and Bruce. We're all in studio, and we're here for you, the Sportsman Racers. Lucky, what else do we got on tap?
Well, we're going to find out a little bit about what's going on with Fontana. But before we do, we always ask people to show us pictures of their cars with the Speed Scene Live stickers. We mail a ton out. How about this? We've got a pair of dragsters, 1959 Linwood, called Alley Oop dragster. And this is all restored and original, and a 1960 dragster, Hell's a Poppin', which Diana-Mite, you actually put the stickers on yourself personally.
I did, with my own bare hands.
That's Bobby's car.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that sticker right on the tank there.
You know it.
That looks good.
Both of these cars have been put away for the winter. So this is the night shot as they get lovingly stored for bad weather. But they will be back in the spring.
Well, you can tell that's back east because look how beautifully lush it is, and look at the trees in the background.
No fences or walls.
Yeah.
And not everything's dead.
Are those leaves turning?
Yeah.
Chris, do you guys have to do that in Georgia? Put all the toys away for the winter?
Well, yes, we actually had to put the boats away about 6 weeks ago. I was just discussing with Lucky and the staff how much I miss boating, and maybe I should have never left California because it's boating all year round, and I might be the dummy on that one. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to think about that as I ride my Harley this Saturday.
That's so...
Thanks for rubbing it in, Lucky. I appreciate that.
I'm going to go water skiing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't let that. Hey, we were talking a little bit about Hedman Headers and during the commercial break, and Hedman's been around since the 50s, and it's one of the few companies that's still family owned.
Yeah, Lucky, we're very proud. The Vandergrift family actually bought Hedman from the Hedman family in 1978, and my father had a plan to return it to its luster of the early days that was the #1 chosen exhaust manufacturer in the industry. To be here 60 years later, still family owned, to be working with my older brother Kevin Vandergrift, who's our director of operations. I'm the general manager and director of racing, and to have our mentor and our father overseeing us and pulling our strings, so to speak, couldn't make us prouder. To be family owned, to be made in California, to say proud and made in the USA, just all things considered, we couldn't be happier.
It's great to have a company, made in USA. I've toured the company's plant. You've got one on the East Coast, and you've got one back on the West Coast. And I don't know, is Georgia East Coast, or I guess that's South, huh?
Well, you could consider it the South, but I would say, you could say it's the East Coast. It's far enough away.
Coast, yeah.
Yeah, it's in that time zone.
Sort of coastal.
It's in that time zone, so we're good, yeah.
Now, you guys have got all these, of course, you're a modern company with computers and everything is all done up, very modern now, but you still employ a lot of people. A lot of people work there and depend on your company for their paychecks and to take care of their families. And a lot of these products, you can see, according by this video, there's a lot of hands-on stuff still being done today.
Yes, there is. Headers seem to be somewhat easy to manufacture and seem simplistic in what their value is, but after 60 years of building engines and being around the industry as a company, one of the first things you can do to your engine to make it more power would be in the carburation or the exhaust. So for the amount of money that you can spend on a header, anywhere from the cheap side of a street header from $200 up to our most expensive headers in the $1,000 range, we've seen horsepower increases of up to 50 to 60 horsepower just by nailing the proper header size and diameter and length. So it's one of the cheapest bangs for your buck that you can get out there would be the exhaust, yes.
And on a street header, it's not just power. You can also get better gas mileage, and fuel mileage is a big deal these days.
Yeah, well, the stock manifold is very restrictive. It basically splits all 4 cylinders into one catcher's mitt, as we call it. When you can break up the individual cylinders and exit them all on their own, it creates flow, it creates black pressure, the motor runs more evenly, therefore a lot easier easier. It doesn't have to work as hard, and that's where the gas mileage and the torque and the economy comes from. Yes.
Nice.
You find any issues, Chris, with, I mean, you guys are battling the world now. It's a global economy these days. We were talking right before the show started about how easy it is for import companies that are making things overseas to kind of just, knockoffs. Even if they're inventing their own stuff and not copying a major manufacturer like Hedman Headers, it's pretty easy for somebody to just kind of move on in with cheaper labor and stuff. And, man, you guys, it is cool that you are rocking and rolling in such an economy.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the thing with the China environment is we like to say, proud to say, made in the USA, and that's for a reason, because Americans are building the products. I think as China tries to copy what we make here in the States, it's going to be tough for them to get it to the end user, because with all of our warehouse distributors such as Summit Racing and JAGS and Motor State and Keystone, that who ends up selling it to the racer, not the Chinaman himself. So as long as we stay proud to make them in the USA, I really don't feel anything that could be made over there will be made with our own hands or be the same exact thing. So I think we're just fine on the repeatability. I don't think it'll be that easy for them.
Now, I was noticing in the photographs, your headers have all the emission hookups, so they're legal on street cars.
Yes. In the California Air Resources Board, it's very tough. Most of the other states are a little more lenient on that. The Air Resources Board is very, very tough, but every header that we have made over the years, we have to apply for a CARB Air Resources Board certificate to basically allow us to sell it in the state of California.
Wow.
So we work very, very hard to honor those agreements. There are a lot of companies out right now that aren't really paying attention to those guidelines, and at Hedman we will always do that and make sure we sell a legit product to the consumer and make sure he never has any problems with his emissions, so to speak.
And Chris, if somebody buys a product without that CARB sticker, it won't go through smog.
Won't go
They're
visual.
going to need to see that number.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
one thing I wanted to mention too is, personal experience I've had putting Hedman headers on and off my hot rod, and race cars, you work on stuff a lot. One of the most impressive things to me about your products is every bolt hole lines up exactly. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You get that part, this looks great, and the bolts don't line up. And you got to, don't put that one in first because you got to, let me get a rat tail file. No way, man. The header, the bolts line up. The tubes give you room to actually put the bolt and a wrench on. And to me, that's a big strong
That's
point.
American craftsmanship,
That's
Mikey.
right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It's not, it's not foreign made. It's not cheap. It's America.
Well, but I have you guys have heard me gripe before with cheap headers. That is the thing, is the holes don't line up, and I don't know why they're building them off a pattern. What's the problem?
They don't line up. They don't seal. They leak.
Yeah.
I can't get the socket on to tighten
And
it.
the welds come undone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not Hedman. Not Hedman.
No.
Hedman works great.
No.
And, it's very impressive to see that truck bring that giant load of steel.
Oh, yeah.
And they told me one of the tricks they do is every piece they cut is already predetermined length. So they don't cut a piece, bend it, and then trim off 2 inches and waste 2 inches. If they need 18.5 inches a header, they cut 18.5 inches, they bend it, boom, it's done, ready to go. Hey, speaking of American ingenuity, though, Hot Rod Bob Beck is an American that's always got his nose to the grindstone, his ear to the ground, and, well, he's got gas. But that's Bob's Great American Auto Scene. We'll be talking about what tonight?
We're going to talk about transporters, getting your car to the track, how they did it in the good old days. Remember, this is the Great American Auto Scene, so we're going to talk about the Great American way of getting your car to a track. We're going to show you some pictures of vintage haulers. And Bruce is going to pull those up right now. Here's one of the favorite ones for me. I remember this car when I lived in Detroit. The Gratiot Auto Supply Chevelle. It was a Chevelle 300, but gosh, guys, you hauled it on a Ford. Whoops. That was the days. Now, here, another Ford.
Oh, that's
But
a
it's got little
Falcon racer.
And look at who's looking at the side fender there. That's lovely Linda Vaughn.
Right, because she's got
I
the
thought I
hearse.
recognized that.
part, yes.
Face.
Face. Now, one of the things about that, if you look at it, a lot of manufacturers had Class 8 vehicles. This was a heavy-duty truck. Ford produced, they still do, but they produced them. Studebaker had them, GM had them, Chevy had them, Dodge had them, and we'll see that in a little bit. TV Tommy Ivo, always the showman.
I love that.
Yeah, this is one of the early ones, or the late ones, when he had the full glass side and the showboat in with the body on it back, and he had that thing painted up, and this was during the days of the Rizlone sponsorship. Typical ramp truck of the 70s and late 60s. Here's
Yeah,
the
where it's
Camaro.
got kind of a standard Chevy front end on it.
Yeah. When we got our start, we actually had one of those.
We had one too, a 75 four-door Chevy.
Drove it all the way to Arizona
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the Summit races.
It
there.
could pass anything but a gas station.
Yeah, here's another one. This is an earlier one. You can see this one's been out in the weather a bit.
A little.
Just a bit.
Oh, just a bit.
That's not painted on rust?
I know.
No, not painted on. Not like the Swedish car we saw last
The
week.
rusty ramp truck.
Yeah, the rust ramp.
That's the real stuff.
Even Bill Jenkins brought his cars to the track on the back of a ramp truck.
Wow.
Now, by this point, they had ramps, actually, and they didn't have an angled body. It kept it straight and
Okay,
level. A little
sure.
bit better handling. You could distribute the weight better.
look
Here
how
was the
cute.
Ford team. Now, take a
That's
look at
nice.
Look
Wow.
at those Torinos and Mustangs on the
Yes.
Ford cab
Oh,
overs.
would you love to have one of those cars? Ford cab overs, those were built through the 80s with that body style, and it started out in the 60s, but the ramp truck, color keyed to the race cars themselves. This was
Beautiful.
That's a great picture, Bob.
Thanks. This is what it was. Now, AMC never really had a truck because that was before the Chrysler days. So here's another Chevy ramp truck. Now, one of the things about the Chevys, a lot of the guys used them, and TB Tommy told me a story about one time. Now, they call him the vampire because he sleeps almost all day.
Yeah.
And he's up at night. Well, while the other teams were sleeping, he went through the pits and changed hoods. Put the white hoods in the black trucks, the black hoods on the white trucks, the red hoods on the blue trucks, and so forth.
He's such a
Because every-
prankster.
Oh yeah, and the hood weighed more than he did.
That's
but
a
he was
lot
able
of
to get 'em
work.
off. But he had fun, so that's what he did.
Well, that's what counts.
Here's the Dodge. It's an old super stocker on
It's-
a Dodge Ram truck. Now, we see these Ram trucks and we think more of the Perdome and the McEwen Ram trucks, but
Sure.
they were the only ones using them.
Wow, that is nice. Now, what would that be overhead? A sleeper, tool storage,
That's parts, sleeper, whatever you put in there. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Now, here's the Ford. This isn't a drag car, but this truck has been restored, and it's got the old Boss 302 Trans Am car on it. I saw this truck at the Steve McQueen show this last year.
Oh, yeah.
Another typical Chevy Ram truck. Again, Chevy and GMC were pretty much the same. I was once told that GMC stood for got more chrome. But yeah. Wow. Now here's the one that we know, and we've seen Perdome's restored version of this truck. This was the old Soxon Martin truck, and McEwen started using it. This was his Duster funny car. Now it's painted up a little bit different. Here's Perdome's truck. Now we've seen it yellow. Here it is in its first iteration, red, white, and blue.
And of course, these are corporate trucks. It's technically a Dodge, but
It
it's
is.
got the Plymouth markings because it's all Chrysler anyway.
Chrysler and Dodge division was the truck division.
Sure.
There's that
Oh,
same
yeah.
transporter as it appears today. This was from the set of the Mongoose and Snake movie.
Now
which
these are going on the auction block
are
shortly,
going
right?
on the auction block.
there's
Yes.
Tommy again.
Here's Tommy's early Dodge.
Oh, look at that! It's got
notice
the
the-
D100 style.
D100
front.
style body on a Class 5, Class 6 chassis, but look at inside. There's two dragsters in there, and his Corvette up on top.
And he would offload that Corvette and drive it around, right?
That's right. And, imagine the ramp
Look at
length.
him.
Yeah, there he is, standing little bitty Tommy at the time.
Oh, man, he's king of the world right there.
Yep,
He's
we were
still
talking.
king of the world, Bucky.
Yep. Now here's a nice combo that you normally see back in the 70s. It didn't matter whether it was what kind of car it was, but you had a trailer, normally a four-wheel trailer, pulled behind a van or a pickup truck.
Sure, in this case, a Pinto and an Econo lineup.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a typical Dodge Ram truck, crew cab Dodge. This was just a long wheelbase.
By the way,
Base
one of
truck.
the first things all these drivers did was install headers on the trucks.
Yes, they did. Of
Because
course.
they needed more
You
power.
got to get some power.
Better gas
Gas
mileage.
mileage.
Yep. Here's another one. Now, the King, Richard Petty.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Now, he was a drag racer when NASCAR banned the Hemi. So he put it in the altered wheelbase Barracuda, and no big transporters. He's got a ramp truck.
How about it? Huh.
I had no idea.
Dick Landy, same thing. And he towed two cars. If you look at the back of that transporter, there's a trailer there.
Oh, yeah, so there's a second car.
His stock and his super stock, different class cars.
Oh, man.
That looks like Mike Blodgett's car.
It
Yeah,
does.
could have been, but that's Grumpy Jenkins, Grumpy's toy, the Las Vegas. Here's the McEwen truck again. This is from the front, so you can see it's a Dodge pickup. This is a funny car. Again, Dodge.
Oh, man, that's a fine-looking funny car Charger.
Now, unfortunately, Dodge has gotten out of that business. They don't have trucks that heavy any longer.
Huh?
So these are definitely vintage photos.
So the biggest Dodge you can get now in terms of a truck is just the pickup truck.
You can get a 4500 or 5500 series pickup truck. They've got the
those
GVWs, the Ram trucks.
Yeah.
They have a commercial version of those, but they've got a kick-up frame, not a flat frame, so it's difficult to mount a body of this type on it.
Got it.
The Melrose Missile. Now, if you look at the back of that ramp, I don't know if you can see it, but it says launching pad.
Jeez. Ooh, there's a vintage shot.
There's a vintage shot. Now, this is when Chrysler produced a Class 8, or what we call a semi-rig now. And that was what they used to haul this particular team. But that was not that uncommon. Like I said, all the manufacturers had Class 8 vehicles at one point in time. Studebaker, GM, Ford. They all had them to tow. They actually made their transporters deliver their vehicles with one. Now, here's the Sox and Martin truck that later became McEwen's.
Oh,
And as you can see, two different class cars that they'd haul around, one on the transporter, one in a trailer. The logistics for moving stuff around like that was probably maddening by today's standards, and that's where they've got the big transporters.
Sure.
But back then, that was the only way to do it. Here's another AMX, the factory team, using a Ford.
Yeah.
And again, that
look
was
at
before their association with Chrysler. And this one,
Now
you
we
see him
still
cruising
see
down
this
the road.
one. We still see this one all the time.
This is
right?
actually a current photo of Chico driving down the highway with the Moon Dragster that they take to a number of shows and races. But I think we're talking to Shiggy about don't drive it anymore, Shiggy. He did a spin out at in Belgium last year. Put it up on two wheels, not the rear ones.
Ouch.
So, but he's driven that. But transporters, the way to get your car to the track. Vintage transporters, we've come a long way since then. That's a little bit of history and vintage.
What I like, Bob, is you kind of tied together vintage racing, vintage transporters, vintage cars, and even vintage drivers.
Yes, you've got to do that.
Yeah, you brought it all together. Well, there's been a lot of talk recently about the Fontana track. Chris, I know where you're from, there hasn't been a lot of track closures like Southern California. Southern California's been hit really hard recently. We've lost a lot of tracks. Recently, we lost the Fontana drag strip at the Auto Club California Speedway, and we've got some news about that now. Welcome to the show, Dar Hawthorne. Dar, welcome back to Speed Scene Live.
Pleased to be here.
Nice. I understand that. Well, of course, we got to mention you were down at SEMA and with Chris. And
boy, are my feet tired.
Did you share your the opinion that it was a great show?
I think it was the best one. I think this is probably the 15th, 16th year that I've been going, and by far it was the best for my business and for getting together with old friends and really talking about the quality of the business. It is coming back around. It's not quite where it should be, but it's
nice to see it on an upturn.
It's
right?
nice to know that we still have a business.
Yeah.
There was also coming off of 5 solid weeks on drag strip, and then hit Pomona this last weekend. The thing I wanted to talk about though that's really coming up is the resurrection of the drag strip at Auto Club Speedway. I went out today and shot a few photos. You want to go back to photo 1 there?
Okay, stand by, coming at you.
That's a photo. Oh, back up 1, please. There. That's a photo of John Force in the final, but if you look down, way down on the left-hand side, there's an empty grandstand. That one, if you go to the next photo, there it is from the back, and you see why that grandstand isn't used. There's a plane coming right overhead.
Oh!
And for about the last 10 years, they haven't used that grandstand because that means they got to close down one of the approaches at Brackett Field.
So we're seeing the grandstand.
So we're seeing the grandstand there, and usually it has giant Auto Club banners on it, and there it is today. Auto Club has helped purchase that, and they're going to be moving it down to California Dragway.
Really?
That's great, because they really need a nice grandstand.
They need a real grandstand.
Yeah.
And that is there's California Dragway. There's the trash cans.
It looks perfect. Let's go racing.
The trash cans are actually in quite good shape.
Are they? No one's used them in a couple of years.
Now that's an update I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
But you can see that nothing's really happened yet. But the steel is on order and is scheduled for delivery next week for the sound wall.
Okay, wait. I got to back up though.
Yeah.
Your comment. Nothing's really happened. I've been told that they have dug the holes.
No.
They have not dug the holes.
No footings?
No.
They have done no work.
No. Well, all the work has been in the legal department.
Okay, well, that's like
Their sand trap needs a good mowing.
Yeah. Okay. So the holes are not dug.
No, as you can see, the holes are not dug. I shot this about noon today.
Okay. So what? Well, there you go. Because I've heard conflicting info both ways. What's the time frame that they expect to do?
The steel is ordered and will be delivered next week for the pilings.
Isn't that sad that they built a track on a steel mill site and they have no steel?
I hope they're not ordering it from China, but that's just a personal.
It's coming from the same.
And as you can see, they're our neighbors. A steel scrapyard and Amtrak and Metrolink. Certainly not the quietest neighbors to have. But yes, the steel is on order and it'll be there next week. And they are scheduling Maggio drilling to come in and start putting in the holes for the pilings.
Are they going to put in a steel sound wall? Or
they're putting in the steel supports.
Okay.
Because as you know, it can get pretty windy down there.
Yes.
And it can get.
There's the time slip booth.
There's a time slip booth under Cosmoline wrap. Hermetically sealed until it gets reopened for handing out your time slips. And also, I think that it's important to point out that there is no official schedule for reopening the track. It's going to have a lot more to do with if it starts raining, if we get heavy winds. It's between now. But I'm telling you that.
What about these guys? Do they know anything about the Fontana track?
Back up. You don't want to know about those guys. One of the things that was clear, and I talked with Tom McKernan from AAA. They are by far the biggest supporters of what we've got left of drag racing in Southern California, and they wrote the check to build this sound wall. Wow. And it's quite an undertaking. It's at least $1 million to undertake this. It's 24 feet high, 1,775 feet long. It will curve from around the tower all the way past the finish line.
Wow!
And now it's at the top of the berm.
I have heard that it starts at the middle of the berm next to the starting line and then runs in a pretty straight line down the right-hand side of that photo there.
Now, let me ask you another question. Obviously, they're going to need a track manager. Has there been any progress on that front?
I know that they have interviewed a number of people, and as far as I know, it is still open. I was told that they do not have a designated managers yet.
So they have interviewed
or yes, they have. Yes.
Applications?
I know a couple of the applicants, yes.
Okay. And well, heck, so we got no manager, no sound wall.
No steel.
Well,
but the trash cans are ready.
I would also, really remind everybody to be patient on this. I know it's been a big pain that there hasn't been a lot of communication out of the track, but I know for a fact that the communications department of California Speedway has returned virtually all the phone calls that they've gotten from irate racers. They really do want to have a great relationship with the Southern California racing community. But that things happen that are out of their control, and really up until now they've had nothing to say. There has been no schedule. There's been no steel ordered. There's been no drilling schedule. That it really is important, and it was emphasized today by the people of the track that be patient. This is going to probably take 60 days to build this. There may or may not be some sound attenuation studies that have to happen. Before something like the JEG Sports Nationals or a divisional or something like that comes down there.
Now, one of the issues that they had previously when they moved the track from one side to the other side, they sort of, it took a while to get all their ducks in a row, and then when they were ready to build the track, they went, oh man, we got to have this thing done, and they hurried up and built the track as fast as they can. Is there danger that we might get in a situation like that again, to where once they get everything ready to go, there'll be a crunch time where they're going to say, "Oh, we got to just hurry up and get it done."
No, I understand that this is the last step in conjunction with the San Bernardino County courts as the solution to be able to use it as a drag strip once again. So this should be the last hurdle. And as I said, it is not known at this point if in fact they have to go through any more sound studies. Their environmental impact report has been approved, and this should be the solution. Doesn't mean we're going to run nitro cars down there. It doesn't mean we're going to run alcohol dragsters, but it's going to be an incremental thing to see what fits within the window. How well this sound wall works. Does it mean on a windy day it's going to bother somebody in San Gabriel? Who knows at this point?
Well, thanks for the update. We appreciate it, and we hope as soon as you do hear something more, let us know. Bring it to Speed Scene Live, and we'll share everything we know with everybody that can watch us.
Well, one more thing I'd like to mention is that the Heritage Series season starts early this year for the NHRA Heritage Series.
That's right.
January 10, 11, 12 at Wild Horse Mesa Motorsports Park, the former Firebird in Phoenix. And then the March meet on March 6th to the 9th. And if you can go quickly through those photos I dropped off there, that one of those guys on the golf cart.
Oh yeah, let's see if we can get
If you can name all the participants, you'll win a box of donuts. But I know you can't. You won't be able to do that.
Nitro donuts.
But you'll also notice on the front part of the golf cart is a Speed Scene Live sticker.
That's right.
So that is Donnie Couch driving it and smoking a cigar, and the.
You can't get the tires.
There you go.
He can.
That's John Oberhofer sitting with him, and they were going off to the West Coast Funny Car Factory hospitality lounge.
Nice. Well, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get more with Chris Vandergrift. We're going to find out more about Hedman, and we got some NMCA West footage to show you. Cool. Stay tuned.
M&H Tires, makers of racing tires that give you the best bite for the buck. You paid a lot for that horsepower. Make sure you use it all. M&H Tires has the best compounds available for maximum traction. Go to mandhtires.com. That's mandhtires.com. Buy direct and save at the website and mention the Speed Scene for a 5% discount. That's right, mandhtires.com. Call them at 661-324-4773. M&H Tires has tech guys ready to answer your questions or to recommend the best tire for you. Slicks or DOT. M&H Tires has it all. M&H were the first to create racing tires for muscle cars and also the first to create racing tires for sport compact cars. Legendary M&H Tires. Shop online. Mention the Speed Scene and save 5%. Get the best racing tires, great personal service, and save 5%. Go to mandhtires.com or call them at 661-324-4773. mandhtires.com.
Everyone in the armed forces that has served to defend our great country and our freedom, all of us here in the United States of America would like to offer our sincere appreciation for all that you do and all that you've done. To every family that has made a sacrifice for us, we thank you.
Hey, this is Rockin' Rob on Speed Scene Live. Look out, Orlando!
Welcome back to more of Speed Scene Live, the #1 online drag racing TV show. Brought to you by Curry Rear Ends, M&H Tires, Hedman Hustler Headers, and thefolk.com.
And look at this. We are live, broadcasting live from the Speed Scene Live studios here in beautiful North Hollywood, California. I'm Bruce Barker, and there's Diana-Mite. There's Lucky Hudson. And there's that Bob Beck guy. And Chris Vandergriff is in the studio tonight. Man, it's a full house, and we're having a good time. Take it away, Lucky.
Hey, I want to mention the new issue of Drag Illustrated magazine is out. Great full-color magazine, and for people that enjoy beautiful, high-quality magazines, make sure that you subscribe or pick it up wherever it's available.
Hey, there's some nice stories, too, right, Lucky? Yeah.
Besides the pictures.
How about the Curry Sportsman Spotlight?
Hey.
You can check out every month in Drag
There's some
Illustrated.
great journalism in there, so look for it.
Well, I don't know about great journalism, but hey, there's a drag racer talking about drag racing. It don't get more authentic than that, does it?
That's the truth.
The Pulitzer's headed your way.
Well, we've been talking a lot about Hedman headers tonight. Of course, we got Chris Vandergriff, whose family is the owner of the company, and you know, a lot of sportsman racers are involved with Hedman headers. You guys are involved with a lot of different classes, and a lot of people support your products. You also are involved with Transdap and Hamburger oil pans.
Yes.
And what's the difference between your line of Hedman Hustler headers and your Hedman Street headers? Hold on a second, though, because I think we've got a guest racer that's going to talk a little bit about racing here.
You know, the best part about the Hedman Nostalgia Streetcar class is that it's made up of real cars. I mean, cars with doors and fenders and hoods with real people driving them, going real fast.
Now, it's not just Novas, also Mustangs.
I really like Hedman headers and Nostalgia Streetcar. I like the index racing. It's a real challenge to have a set number that you have to run on. To see a class with nothing but the older cars really makes it unique and special.
And you know, even racers that have won and participated in many classes.
No matter what track we're at, I'm slowing the car down to 1050. We're not allowed to use electronics in Hedman headers Nostalgia Streetcar class. You're racing different speed cars too, so that makes it tough because you're not going down the track side by side to run your index. I might be a 1050 car with a 850 car chasing me, and so it makes it pretty hard to judge the stripe when there's a big mile-an-hour difference. It's a really cool class.
So, Chris, tell us, what is the difference between Hedman Hustler headers and your line of Hedman Street headers?
Well, I think that the difference in those would be back in the day when cars were OEM. Back when cars were OEM, they didn't really have a whole lot of horsepower coming out of Detroit. As we talked about earlier, making more power was the goal. As that gentleman just said in the piece there, he could be a 850 car chasing a 1050 car. So I would have to say the biggest difference in the header itself would be the tube diameter, the length, the collector size due to the horsepower and the torque of the engine. Somebody running around town with 350 horsepower would be probably on an 1 5/8 primary tube header to a 3-inch collector. And if we put that same application on an 850 car, we'd probably be up in the 2 1/8 primary tube to 3.5 to 4-inch collector. So mostly has to do with power and the combination of the motor, the lift duration on the camshaft. OEM is OEM, and all-out race, you really can't drive them on the street. So that's where the big header comes into play, making all that horsepower.
Wow, but the important thing is they're really pretty and they're shiny and they look great on a car. Coming from a girl's point of view, there's a nice sheen. I can look at myself, put my lipstick on. Those things are all important too.
Yeah, the important stuff. Now, what kind of coating do you guys use on your head?
Ours is a ceramic coating that was developed back in the day out of NASA. They actually developed it on the belly of the space shuttle tiles.
Dang.
It was one of the best ceramics to basically let the space shuttle back into our atmosphere without burning up. It goes up to normally about 16 to 1800 degrees. Some finishes in ceramic we do in black with the satin finish like Lucky's had on his vehicle. And our most popular seller is our high luster silver that really has a nice polish to it. So when you're dressing up your engine, you got a good air cleaner, good valve covers, a set of Hedman headers on there, nice and shiny and silver. You can never go wrong.
Now, you guys also have this great new line of small mufflers designed for race cars, and I run them on my car, and they sound great, they look great, and they don't really take away horsepower. How did you guys come up with these free-flowing mufflers.
Well, actually, that was a derivative of our new asphalt and dirt late model programs in the oval track industry. We're trying to find the most tight and compact muffler that you can to obviously fit the vehicles, but a chambered muffler is always the most horsepower and torque robbing. We developed a straight-through muffler that we call a split-flow design because it's most compact, it's a straight-through design, it robs most, or actually it kills more decibel than anything is why we like it, but the engine builders really, really like it because we're not stealing a lot of horsepower and torque from the motor like a chambered muffler.
That sounds like a muffler of choice for the Fontana Raceway, because we know they've had a ton of issues with the cars being too loud. I think we need to hook you up with those guys over there, Chris.
I would be more than happy. We do decibel testing all around the country in various forms of motorsports. So if the Speedway would like to work with a respected manufacturer as us, I'd be willing to donate the mufflers. Somebody get a decibel meter, and let's make sure we're quiet enough to keep racing there for many years to come.
And Irwindale's a muffler track right now. That would be great because a lot of the guys that want to run at Irwindale don't have a muffler of choice they can use.
Right. And the whole issue is they don't want to run mufflers because they think it takes away from their power. They just don't realize that there are mufflers out there that will still give them power and performance that they want.
Agreed.
Another thing, Diana-Mite, that a lot of racers overlook that I've really come to appreciate, when you take a little bit of the noise away from your race car, you can hear what's going on with the valve train. And, I'm a racer that likes to really be in tune with my car. Right. Any vibration, any weird noise, it really gets my attention. And especially when you're going down the track and you're shifting at 7 grand. And, if you can hear your valves make a little noise or something that doesn't sound right, you can sometimes catch a problem when it's small before it becomes big.
I think that's a great idea, Lucky, because most of us racers, we've got a lot of seat time. We're really in tune with our cars. And, when you're on the track, your car's just so loud, and when you're coming back, you really can't tell what's going on with it. But you know what? You're right. If you've got around that a little bit, you can be more in tune with your vehicle.
And, Dart was talking about Fontana and Hot Rod Bob, Irwindale. Not everywhere in the country, but at least here in Southern California, we're fighting noise issues quite a bit.
Because there's so many homes built around our racetracks, Lucky. The racetracks have been there for years and years, and then we've got these, multiple homes being built around them, and the homeowners don't want to hear the noise. They don't love it as much as we do.
Well, and I would rather put a muffler on my car than lose a track.
Me too. Absolutely.
So now, Chris, we're seeing another shot of you here. This is after the blowover.
Yes, sir.
So you're just making some passes, but you no longer drag race. You're doing a different type of racing now.
Yeah, after many years of kind of stabilizing the hustler side of our business and delving into the oval track world, we've noticed it's opened a whole new floodgate of business for us. For 55 years, Hedman has always been known as a street header company, a drag racing company, and a street rod company. But if you had an oval track car or anything out of the norm, we really never had anything for you. About 6 years ago, I did a lot of research and took a look at some of what the professional drivers were doing. And if you look at guys like Casey Kane and Tony Stewart, when they're not in their sprint cars, they're out racing, when they're not in their cup cars, they're out racing sprint cars. If you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Clinton Boyer and some of the boys, when they're not in their cup cars, they're out racing dirt late models. So after doing a lot of demographic research and finding out what was popular outside of our normal drag racing niche, it didn't take me very long to figure out that getting into oval track racing would be a great plus for our family business and give us some longevity into the future. It's been a great success for us.
Now, there's a lot of different types of oval. I've got friends that drive sprint cars, and I've driven them many times. Really like them. I think Ron Capps is probably
he's been one, sure.
Yeah, he's really good in a sprint car. A lot of fun to drive them. Really a whole different experience than a guy like me in a drag car going straight down a prepared track. To go into a corner and pitch that thing and slide around a corner is really a weird sensation. But a lot of drag racers do other things like that. We were talking to the dad of Maverick Malloy, who is a speedway racer, also a junior dragster driver. And so I found that a lot of the drag racers out there are often involved in another activity, whether it's a show car, a restoration, or driving in circles like you were talking about.
Well, I have a question on a vehicle that goes around in circles, like a sprint car, what have you. The sprint cars, they have one tire that's bigger than the other. Would you have to make mufflers, different on one side than the other since they're kind of always at an angle?
Well, one is wider than the other normally. What we have to do is just make sure that we're not going to shoot shoot any valve train parts out through the tire. That obviously can cut a tire down. But we're very conscientious in our research and development department. We look at the sprint cars. We have to build headers sometimes where it's basically meant to be ran wide open because there is no room for a muffler to the style header we want to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to shorten it up sometimes for the applications where they do have to run a muffler. So we're very conscious of the racers, the tires, the rule packages, so we can pretty much accommodate what everybody's needs may be.
Now, Chris, you've got a company that's been in business since the 50s. You've been making headers ever since then, and you have these fixtures, or I think you might call them a jig.
Yes, sir.
And I've toured your factory. You've got thousands of these things. People have talked to me at the events. They come up to me in the booth and they say, my dad had, and whatever the car is, and he bought headers from Hedman in 1950 or 1961. He put them on his 55 Chevy and stuff. Are all those headers still available, or do some headers just kind of get phased out over the years?
Well, we try to keep everything available. A lot of header companies will look at their annual sales, and if they're not selling 10s of 20s of something, they'll normally discontinue it. We like to be unique and hang on to that certain Mopar header, or that certain Galaxy Ford 500 header that a lot of the companies will drop. In regards to the jigs, that's just a telltale way for us to make sure that everything fits like it's supposed to. We build a prototype on every vehicle. We build a jig around it to ensure that it fits. If Lucky calls me out one day and say, Chris, these headers are not fitting my Novo worth anything. What is going on here? After a few questions, Lucky might admit to me, being the racer that he is, he moved the motor back an inch over where we originally built the design for. So the jig is actually the telltale sign to make sure that we've done our job properly in each and every time to make sure the headers actually do fit.
The jig is up. That's what it is.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's a lot of guys putting LS motors in cars, and you work with a company. What's the name of the company that you work with as far as LS mounts?
It is BRP Hot Rods out of Cumming, Georgia. They are our partner in all of our new muscle rod line of products to basically swap LS engines into a variety of GM vehicles, yes.
And you say, hey, if you use their motor mounts, we know the headers fit.
But go ahead.
If you make your own or somebody else's, maybe one of those Chinese ones. There's no way of really telling, because you don't know exactly where that motor's being put.
Well, part of the smarts that we had in that was to make sure out of all the thousands and thousands of research and development hours that the guys at BRP were smart enough to build their motor mounts and their tranny cross members around our headers. We built our headers around their tranny mounts and motor mounts, so basically it was a no-brainer. Everything is easy to install. You don't need to beat, you don't need to bang, you don't need to weld, you don't need to grind. We made it for the average guy at home that's not a mechanic to be able to install it himself, so just taking the time to design the parts around each other made it a no-brainer for everybody.
Well, now, Chris, here you got this company. You've been around for decades and decades, and I already see that when I go through your factory, I see the computer modeling, and I see all these guys in there with programs, and you're very futuristic. You're not living in the old days. Even though there's a lot of hands-on work, as you can see here, you guys are going with the times. What's the future for Hedman headers right now? Where are you guys going in the near future? Well, I think the future for Hedman is obviously listening to our customer base. We like to keep our ears to the grindstone and find out what the racers and the average street guy is saying. In today's world, it's so much street environment and it's so much race environment. That's why we have Hedman headers and we have Hedman Hustler. So the average street guy that's tooling around the town that's never going to see the drag strip, you can buy a set of headers from Hedman. You can buy oil pans from our Hamburger and TD line. We have carburetor spacers from Hamburger. We have thousands and thousands of part numbers that are street legal, can be on the drag strip as well. It just kind of determines what your forte is and how fast you're going versus the products that we might sell you. Well, that's great. So actually, the future's bright. Actually, part of your success is being involved and interested in good customer service. We pride ourselves on that. We are, I like to think we're the company that listens. If you don't listen to your consumer, you really don't know the problems or the in and out difficulties they may have someday. So I like to think all of our sales staff has been very trained to be listeners. All of us are very educated. We've been doing this a long time, so it's really not hard to answer the questions if you have the proper knowledge. So I think when you do call the Hedman Performance Group, every one of our employees will be very calm and very listening to you and your desires and your wants. And if you ever have a problem with our products, we're always there to help you out. Nice, nice. Well, Bruce, we've only got a couple minutes left. we should probably do a real quick what's going on, where we let people know what's going on. And, the season is kind of winding down for a lot of people. Chris, you will be out at PRI in December.
Yeah, that is our next big trade show of the year. Obviously, we just wrapped up Las Vegas, and after many years of being in Orlando, we're all heading back to Indy for the first go-around of the PRI show again. Everybody around the country, if you've never been, come please join us. I think after sitting here talking about the success of the SEMA show, everybody in the racing community can make sure this grows and grows and grows. If you've got the time and a few bucks to blow, please come look us up in Indy. It's a mini SEMA, and you won't be disappointed.
That's December 12th through the 14th. And do you have to be an industry insider like SEMA?
Normally that is the requirement. I believe it is dealer-based, and you have to be a consumer in our industry. I do know being friends with people in certain companies can help you acquire the right badges to get in the show, but I believe it's more potentially through the manufacturer, the distributors, more so than it is the end user at these shows, yes.
Well, Diana-Mite, I know I asked Chris a question, but
you
who
did,
is...
we want to let everybody know that what's going on is brought to you by Curry Racing Rear Ends, as well as Hedman Hustler Headers. We couldn't do it without our sponsor, so we want to thank them. Also, as far as what's going on, we want to let everybody know Orlando Night of Fire, that's going to be November 23rd. Right, Lucky?
That's right. We talked to Ike Heckler Jr., and he's promoting that, and that's going to be a great event. And they just had their big Orlando World Street Nationals, and it was a huge success. A lot of fast runs, great hook and track. Like Ike says, Orlando's back, baby.
And we did get the list on the Heritage Race. The first one's going to the NHRA Heritage Race will be January 10th through the 12th. That's 2014 at Chandler, Arizona. Hey, Arizona, they race in the wintertime, just like California.
That's right. And don't forget, ANRA, the American Nostalgia Racing Association, season opener, April 11th through the 13th up at Bakersfield. Well, Chris, it's been great having you on the show. We appreciate you coming on, and I know you got to head back to Georgia, but we appreciate you hanging out with us here in Southern California.
Driving all the way from Vegas to come visit us. Yeah. Hey, Bob, it looks like Cat's got your tongue. Where are you going to be next?
I'm going to be in Irwindale Thursday night, as always, and then I'm getting ready to go to Japan for Mooneyes.
Ooh, all the way to Japan,
all the way to Japan. Then back the following week for their Christmas party at Irwindale.
Well, that'll be a blast.
Wow. Nice. Well, we'll catch all of you next week. Next week, Alex, the car girl, Rogio, will be live in studio. Join us in, and we will see you then. Right, Bruce?
That is correct, sir. Coming up next, the encore presentation of tonight's show. And be sure to join us again, as Lucky says, next week right here at Speed Scene Live. Good night, everybody.
Speed Scene Live TV, the #1 online motorsports TV show. Brought to you by Curry Racing Rear Ends, M&H Tires, and TheFoat.com.